Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, we are back at it again with another bit of 3.0 news. And this time, it's not going to be focused on the characters or the environment or the exploration mechanics, the bike, none of that. It's going to be on the echoes. And we're going to get very, very, very familiar with these echoes when we start 3.0 because you are not going to just fight them. You're also going to pillage their bodies and then use them as equipment. Yeah, because this is the gear in the game as well. So without further ado, it looks like we've got a breakdown of the collection of small and medium-sized echoes in Lahai-Roi, along with all of their Sonata set effects and actual attributes as well. And believe me when I say this, these are perhaps some of the most interesting echoes and echo effects we've ever seen. So let's just go ahead and look at the first one over here. We've got the Twin Nova Nebulous Cannon. And I'm going to be real. Kuro Games is really marketing these. These kind of look like, the way that I would describe them is that these remind me of like action figure boxes or like action figure advertisements. I feel like I'm looking at like toys made for like middle school aged boys in like 2005. And I'm going to be honest, it's great. It's like a nostalgia hit. This just like screen and this format, it reminds me of like the good old days from my childhood. And I've realized that a lot of the content in Wuthering Waves 3.0, it's designed for a nostalgia factor. And it's almost designed for, when you realize it, it's like literally for a mature audience. Because this is something that I just saw before, right? It's actually an ad. And I realize we're getting a little bit sidetracked over it, but I think this is relevant, right? This was one of the ads that they had for 3.0, right? Y'all remember this?
Sigma presents
Sigma. And then you look at like the art style and stuff in here, and this is like just some straight up retro stuff, right? This is retro stuff, like some Sailor Moon shit. You gotta be old to know this, and I'm not gonna lie, I feel like you gotta be old to be feeling something from this one. But let's just say this, I am feeling it, Mr. Krabs, and it is a good feeling. So without further ado, just talking about the design, nostalgia factor, all of that, let's go ahead and actually start reading some of these effects. Okay, so the Twin Nova Nebulous Cannon is going to be an elite class, a 3 cost. These are typically some of the harder ones to farm in the game. And apparently, these mechs were built for exploration beyond the Strider Gate. These are made by humans, but I guess they can also turn into echoes. So this is basically the first confirmation that we're gonna have man-made echoes that are like machines, but they also turn into reverberations, which by itself, conceptually, almost makes like, it's like mind-blowing. You're like building these and then they turn into frequencies that you can put into their terminals. So you're turning like steel or whatever material they're made out of into frequencies. Very, very, very interesting. Or maybe they're made out of frequencies and they turn into metal. Whatever it is, there's a bit of a caveat to them. Together as one, paired Twin Novas demonstrate unprecedented combat capabilities. That's a hint for the Echo Skill effect. Echo Skill, transform into Twin Nova Nebulous Cannon to launch slashes and deal spectral damage. The Resonator with this Echo equipped in the main slot gains spectro and basic attack damage bonuses. So just reading that set effect alone and then reading over here and looking at some of the previews in this version, ladies and gentlemen, you see it over here, but then you're also going to see it over here in the Rite of Gilded Revelation. And as most people would probably be able to figure out by now, this is going to be Linnea's DPS Sonata set. She's also going to have a sub DPS one. But as you can see over here, with a basic attack and spectral damage bonus on the passive effect, and of course, basic attack and spectral damage bonuses over here in the 5-piece effect, well, Linnea enjoyers, you do know when you're going to need to farm. However, you're probably going to want to farm something else on top of it, because you got another effect in this Echo Skill. Equipping Twin Nova Collapsar Blade at the same time grants special Echo Skill effects. So it's not just mechas and Gundams. They've also got, like, the mechs are going to combine together. If you have both these Echoes equipped, I imagine the Echo Skill involves them, like, morphing together, and then they'll, like, shoot a gun and a laser at a gun and a sword at the same time. That's kind of badass once you think about it, right? And you want to know what makes this so great? it's completely free to play, right? Like, you don't have to, like, do any dumb shit to unlock this capability. It's just in there for free. Because you could just go farm the fucking echoes. So, you can't even complain about, like, how it's set up. You just go farm it. It is what it is. So, obviously, you're probably wondering, what's the other half of this equation? How do you unlock that special team-up bonus that apparently the echoes have? Twin Nova Collapsar Blade. The Twin Nova mechs were built for exploration, blah, blah, blah. And together as one, it's the same description, right? So for this, you're going to transform into the Twin Nova Collapsar Blade to fire at enemies, dealing electro damage. So it might give you a clue for who some of the new units in 3.1 might be. We might get an electro flare unit. The resonator with this echo equipped in the main slot gains electro and basic attack damage bonuses. And equipping Twin Nova Nebulous Cannon gives you the special effects. So, if you haven't figured it out by now, ladies and gentlemen, that pretty much is like confirmation it's for a new electro unit. Because no electro unit on the roster deals basic attack damage. Literally none of them. They deal a negative amount. The person that actually deals the most is Zhang Liao, but he's a liberation-based damage dealer. There's nobody on the roster that this is intended for currently, right? Nobody at all. However, you can probably guess, I'm thinking Lucilla. Some people are saying Luke, but Lucilla, to me, the purple person that does like the film rolls and stuff, I think it's going to be for her. And I also think Lucilla's going to be an electro flare damage dealer. That's pretty much it. So, yeah, it's going to be for her. You can probably guess why I think she's electro. Anyways, yeah, she's got big badonkers and she also has purple hair, so I think she's electro. But that's going to be how you get the team up bonus over here. And so what I'm imagining is that this is naturally going to be on the 5-piece Lahai DPS set. This one's also probably going to be on there as well. It's also probably going to end up dropping an electro set in the future, an electro flare set in the future as well. So I would just say, make sure you prioritize farming this one as soon as 2.0 drops if this is what you want to equip. And the reason for that is simple. Kuro Games has a policy of making echoes harder to farm as the version goes on. One example that I'll show you over here is actually something called the Hurriclaw. This thing used to only have 2 possible Sonata set drops. It used to actually only drop Gusts of Welkin and Tide-Breaking Courage. However, as the versions went on, Crown of Valor actually got added to its drop table. And so now it has Crown of Valor 2 when it originally only had 2. So the end result is that if you're farming this in the overworld and you wanted Tie-Breaking Courage and you also wanted Gusts of Welkin, well, great. Now you have Crown of Valor diluting the pool and making it harder for you to farm in the overworld. But the Hurriclaw was released in 2.2. And so it took about 4 versions, 2.3, 2.4, 2.5, 2.6, for Crown of Valor to be added to the drop table. So, once again, before this one gets diluted by the Electro Flare set, because I'm 100% certain it will be, and make sure you farm that Lahai piece now on that Spectro DPS set that you need before it ends up happening. Just a bit of a forewarning, I almost guarantee it's going to occur. Now, we got an arrow-based one, and this one's going to be interesting. The Flora Reindeer. Yes, we got Horizon Zero Dawn. After scanning the data of past animals, the Exostrider used its parts to grow, and proliferate mechanical reindeer. And these reindeers are apparently companions to the Roya, the tribe that lives in Lahai-Roi and helps them with plant foraging. So yeah, these are organic mechanical echoes, which is just crazy once you think about it. So I don't think these are made from like the souls of the frequencies of dead people, which is kind of like the crisis of echoes in the first place, where they're the frequencies of like dead people, right? That get malformed and turned into TDs. These are people even involved in their existence? Who knows? But yeah, this one's going to just be one of the most boring echoes I've ever seen. You just summon a Flora Reindeer to attack enemies and deal arrow damage. No special effects for this one. I guess this one is just going to be used for set bonuses. Nothing too crazy about it. A little bit disappointing, but it is what it is. Now we got the Mining Reindeer. How are these? Okay, they look almost exactly the fucking same. I think the only difference is that this guy has like a baseball glove on his hand, and this guy has like, I don't know, a cleaver? Whatever it is, doesn't matter. They look almost the same. This one's gonna be the mining reindeer, and I guess it's gonna be the electro version. Nothing too crazy to say about it. It's just, I guess the Exostrider differentiates their creations. This guy's for foraging, this guy's for mining. It is what it is. I guess the Exostrider is just making very useful companions for the Roya tribe. Seems like Roya tribe might actually be the ones closest to the Sentinel, which, I mean, by itself, that, I think, is a nice little, cool little lore drop. So the Spacetrek Collective, Star Torch Academy are the ones doing the research, but it seems like the Exostrider, the Sentinel, seems to care more about the Roya tribe. Very, very, very interesting. I'm interested in seeing how the sort of like factions end up developing as 3.0 goes on. Now we got the Ironhoof, and this guy is going to be a ram. After scanning the data of past animals in Lahai-Roi, blah, 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 it made some new stuff. And due to the Ironhoof's tough armor, which allows it to survive frigid temperatures on long journeys, they use them to it's a pack animal. Great. So basically, all of like the domestic farm animals, I know these don't really count, but they're serving the role of farm animals. Like the farm animals, right? They just have like artificial versions of them. So do these things like eat? How do they get maintained? Are they basically just like upkeep free labor? That's crazy. I wonder how they sustain these. Anyways, this echo skill is going to be just transform and charge at enemies and deal fusion damage. As you can see, this is basically, to me, looking like a lot of these sets over here, a lot of these echoes, TDs, whatever they're going to be, they're going to have new sets added to them. That's what it's looking like to me. Because a fact about Wuthering Waves 3.0 is that all of these new enemies, guys, they're only going to end up dropping these 3 new sets. Unless there's going to be some new shit announced, it kind of only is these 3. And so, all of the enemies should theoretically be split across these lines. And I think a massive majority of these echoes are just going to only be 2 sets. And then from those 2 sets, a third one is going to be added as the versions kind of progress. So, my take is going to be, and I've already said it before, right? Make sure you do the farming fast in 2.0 or in 3.0 for the 3.0 units before the 3.0 units farming gets harder, because this is the easiest it's going to get, and it's only going to get more difficult as time goes on. Just my preamble, my little warning over here. All right, now we got the Spacetrek Explorer, and this is where shit gets interesting. This is basically like a fucking utility vehicle, I guess, made by the Spacetrek Academy, and what this does, its echo skill summons a shield for every resonator in the team. Now that one is a little bit interesting, because now this starts being able to, I guess, somewhat interact with some of the other mechanics that we have in the game. Are you going to use this with your Augusta team to be able to stack up her passive faster, right? Are you going to use this with your Augusta or your Uno? Maybe. Is it going to be worth losing one of the buffs? Probably not. But you already know this character gets bonuses from obtaining shields, and I'm pretty sure she can get these bonuses maybe from off-field. Who knows, right? Just some really, really, really interesting new mechanics that I'm seeing in these echoes. We had the combine skill, and now we have one that's going to grant a shield to the team, give some sustain. And this is going to be different, right, from like the Bellborn Giocholone shield. I'm hoping it has some passive effects, but if it's just an HP shield, probably not going to see some use. But I'm just glad that new mechanics are getting explored in the echo skills, which I think was one of the biggest potentials of the system that it feels like hasn't really been explored a lot. So I'm glad they're doing a little bit of innovation over here. Let's see if they get more spicy. Now we got the Sabercat Reaver. Okay, this one's just gonna be, I think, one of the new fusion things. All it does is it summons a Sabercat to attack enemies, deals fusion damage. That's really it. Nothing too interesting here. But it is a predatory animal. So I guess it looks like Lahai-Roi, the Exostrider, is like creating a natural ecosystem, right? As opposed to just tools for the Roya tribe. So it looks like I guess, they're trying to almost play God in Lahai-Roi, not just exclusively help out the Roya tribe, but yeah, I guess they're going to create some enemies for the Roya tribe as well, because I'm pretty sure this has killed some of the people there, right? That's the point. Why else would they make this? It's supposed to kill things. Now we got the Saber Cat Prowler. Okay, so this is the take that I'll make about some of these mechanical echoes. Some of them do appear to be very, very, very similar just in terms of their design. So what I'm hoping is that when it comes to these enemies like the Reaver versus the Prowler, I hope their movesets are like entirely different. Same thing with like the Moose Echoes, where one is the Miner and one is the Forager. I just hope their attacks are wildly different, because otherwise it's going to be really hard to differentiate these two in combat. And just like in like the TOA or Weewa or whatever, it's confusing. Because like, what? The difference between these two is that this guy's got like 2 fucking accessories. Otherwise, they're the fucking same. So yeah, this one, however, is going to be capable of camouflage. So that's going to be great. I guess we got an invisible enemy, ladies and gentlemen. I guess this is going to like hunt you down while you're like walking around Lahai-Roi. Awesome. Now we got horror elements in the game. Now it's time to get into the 1-cost echoes. And this is where stuff could potentially get a little bit interesting. So, they got themselves bees, the Florodrones. These just summon a Florodrone that deals arrow damage and then also heals resonators on the team. Any echo that heals always ends up having some very, very interesting use cases, right? Maybe it'll trigger rejuvenating glow. Maybe it can be used for like certain healing mechanics later on when you don't have an actual healer on your team. Who knows? Again, I'm just all about having more unique effects, letting people play around with them, and then see what's possible. So glad it's being done here. Now they got the mining drone. This one is, I guess, this is our first Havoc Echo, which is interesting, right? It deals Havoc damage. Just haven't really seen anything that indicates Havoc yet. Yeah, we'll just see whatever happens to this one. But yeah, this one is, you transform into the mining drone and attack enemies. I don't think this one's going to be used at all. Geo Spider S4. You just summon this one and deal spectral damage. It literally looks like a landmine. I'm gonna be honest. This will probably like explode when you like walk over it. So maybe this is gonna be one of the easiest ones to farm in the game because it will literally farm itself. It's also apparently in its S4 iteration. So, yeah, it's a little bit... I wonder where S1, S2, and S3 are. Next, we're gonna have Zip Zaps. And this is the one that looks the closest to a goddamn Pokemon. This is basically like Voltorb. You're just gonna summon this one to Zip Zap the enemies. And apparently it's some sort of like electromagnetic Murmurin TD. So this is one of the first actual TDs. And this is the part that's kind of crazy. This is one of the first actual T-fucking-Ds that we've seen over here. And the design is clearly different. It looks like almost childish or like comical, right? While all of these other designs look like sleek, sci-fi, you know, super futuristic, blah, blah, blah. This looks like it was made by a 10-year-old. So, I don't know. I have to assume that, right, TDs are like distorted human frequencies, right? And I think it's in lore that, like, the small TDs, right? These are all dead kids. I hope y'all knew that. These are dead kids. That's why they look all innocent and shit. That's why they're, like, small and stuff. So, these are, like, I have to assume, like, Lahai-Roi kids. Because why else do their designs look so childish? Because these are childish frequencies that got distorted, and that's why they look all goofy and shit like this. And that's why all of like the little mini 1-cost looks so goofy. It's because these are kids' frequencies. And that's why the other ones, that's why these ones look like, well, you know, that's why these ones look scarier, because these are the adults. So yeah, that's the lore drop to say that we're gonna be farming a bunch of dead kids in Lahai-Roi as well. So don't worry about that, ladies and gentlemen. You'll be able to get your fix. And these Zip Zaps are just gonna be summoned to attack and deal electro damage to enemies. Alright, now let's move on and take a look at what the dead adults in Lahai-Roi look like. Because we've got ourselves the Tremor Warriors. Here we go. So remember what I said about like the kids looking goofy and then the adults look kind of scary? Yeah, this guy kind of looks like a bit of a freak over here if we're gonna be real. Yeah, we got like a mix of like, this looks like a Tenno. Wait, straight up, this looks like a Warframe. What the fuck? Wait, this looks like Ash Prime, bro. Wait, this is Ash Prime. What the? Wait a second. Oh, Oh no, this is Ash Prime, brother. Uh-oh, Spaghetti-O. Yeah, you can't tell me this ain't Ash Prime, bro. Because Ash Prime also got themselves, like, one of those fucking tails, dude. They got themselves, like, the little, like, the little thing at the end. Okay, there are, like, no good photos of it. Alright, editor, you just put in a photo of Ash Prime that shows, like, his little head tail? Because I'm gonna be real over here. The wiki servers are lagging and nothing's working. Alright, this works too. Open image in new tab. Alright, this is like the worst image ever, but you get what I'm talking about, right? Warframe got like the robots and shit. This is one of the Warframes and this is his design. He's the only one that has this. And like, yeah, they're both like, this guy looks like a ninja. They're both like ninjas. Okay, you get it. Anyways, this is a bent over. What? A bent over humanoid. Most would say this is crouching. Like, most would, like, would you guys call that bending over? Nah, this bro's like crouching. This is a superhero. Who the fuck would describe this as bending over? Anyways. It's got electric currents coursing through its veins and a whip-like appendage on its head. Observers note that its segmented whip can suddenly release high voltage electricity. The whip's tip. Okay, this is okay. I'm not gonna lie. This is like, this is like somebody's fetish. This TD is a writer's fetish. They're writing like some weird shit in here. I'm not even gonna read the rest of this. Anyways, bro, it's even called the Tremor. Now the name's weird too. After I've read the entire description, the name's weird too. Ew. Transform into a Tremor warrior and to attack enemies and deal electro. Nah, this is a freaky dev. Now this guy over here, this guy looks a little bit more badass. But I'll just have to read the description to see if the same freak that wrote the fucking Tremor Warrior is back at it again for the Frostbite Coleoid. Let's see. A parasitic creature that lives inside whisper and tacit discords. Oh, using the host body as a cocoon and feeds on its frequency. Infection causes combative behavior and a compulsion to feed on other TDs. What the fuck? So this is like infecting a TD? That's crazy. Okay, no, this one's just cool. Yeah, no, this one's just cool. That's a glacial one. You just summon it and it punches enemies apparently. So it just punches the shit out of them. Now they got the Windlash Coleoid. Okay, so they got the parasitic creatures. This is the Scyther that lives inside them, blah, blah, blah. Infection by Windlash ones causes combative behavior, compulsion to feed on them, and then they break free. And this one just kicks enemies, dealing arrow damage. All right. So that's going to be the entire lineup of 1 to 3 cost echoes. And as you can see, that's a fuck ton of them. And one thing that I'm going to be extremely confused by is how only 3 new sets is supposed to encapsulate all of these echoes. There might literally be a fair number of these echoes that are just only going to have 1 set dropping from them. That could be the case. Or this is also the other thing. And this one could be huge. There's a possibility that there's actually more echoes in here for unreleased characters that are simply just going to drop with 3.0, but just weren't announced. Because they're not, well, let's just be real, they're not going to be used by these characters. So I don't think it's an issue for them to not announce they might be farmable, but they're not going to be usable sets. And maybe there's a reason why it's for reference only. The final content will be released. So yeah, my personal take on this is way too many fucking echoes for only 3 sets to be covered in these. So it's going to be a mix of, like I said, some of these echoes are only going to have 1 set dropping from them, or we're just going to have some unreleased or unannounced sets releasing in 3.0. But yeah, I will say they're doing some very, very, very innovative stuff over here. Clearly the Twin Novas are something that's going to like steal the show, I think, from the Echo side. And I'm glad that this is going to be something that's immediately usable. the second we drop into 3.0, right? You just got to go farm it, but you can immediately access this. Because, yeah, it's clearly designed for Linné, and most people will be using this in the active slot with Linné. But yeah, I'll just say overall, 3.0 once again is looking very good. And while I thought this was going to be a bit more of a mechanical breakdown of what the Echoes were doing, it actually turned out to be a bit more of like a lore reveal about how Lahai-Roi actually operates. Because you can clearly see what's going on. You still got TDs, you still got the dead frequencies of Lahai-Roians, but then you also got all of these organic, like fauna, flora, being created by the Exostrider, like an entire ecosystem that's getting made, right? You got fucking robots, you got animals, you got Spacetrek collective machines that are turning into Echoes too. Like, I'm just gonna be real over here. Yeah, this is just Horizon Zero Dawn, and I can't wait for the lawsuit. Let me know what you all thought, ladies and gentlemen. Peace out.